And now let's talk what are some different methods that we need to use while writing our unit test methods. So first thing, we need to use test.start test and stop test method inside each method so that we can run within a governor limits, and in every test method it will reset a governor limit for you. But as we are using @ is test annotation, this test method is deprecated, and because of that we no need to use test start test and stop test. So inside we can say that if we are using @is test for any of the method, inside that method you cannot use test.start test and test.stop test. If you will try, you will get an error, test is already started. I will show you this in a working session. And again, we need to develop the unit test for all the scenarios for if there are multiple if conditions. So earlier in our demo we saw that there were some multiple if conditions and we were not able to cover some of those. So for all those we need to insert some test data inside our test methods, or insert the common set of data inside setup method and make the updates inside your local test method to make sure or to cover all those scenarios. We talked about use assert methods. We have system.assert, assert equals, and assert not equals to validate the result. Either the result is as expected by the user or not. If not, then make modification in your test case and don't remove system.assert, because most of the developers do remove just to pass their test cases. This is not a best practice. And then again, test your test class for at least 200 records so that you are sure that your code is working in a bulk way as well. And then again, create a test data inside your test class. Don't use see all data attribute as a true to get the existing data from your system to save your time, because if you will try to save your time while writing the unit test, it is going to give you a very big problem while you are deploying the code. Then again, you have to spend more and more time to fix all those changes. Now there are a few important things to learn that we talked about. We did not talk about at the test visible. We will see why it is useful and when we need to use at the test visible. So test visible is basically to access the private member of your class. So if there is any method that you have declared as a private, or there are some kind of variable that you have declared as private, you wanted to access those inside test class, you need to mark those variables or methods as a test visible. And then test.load data, it is also a useful method of test class that you can use to create some data without writing a single code. You just need to put a single line of code with the help of a static resource, and you will get the data. We will see the demo as well. And then there is one important, that is system.runAs. So system.runAs is used to test the user permission. For example, you have set up multiple profiles, you have got multiple users, and some users have access to particular fields, or some users have access to particular records. To test all those inside your code, you need to use system.runAs. And then we already talked about test.start test and stop test. And so these are the assert methods that we discussed. System.assert, it requires one parameter which is either true or false. So if it is true, it will not give you it will not throw any kind of error. If it is false, the parameter that you are passing, it is going to throw you an error and your test method will fail. And then we have got system.assert equals. This method has different signatures. Some method requires 3 parameters, and one method requires 2 parameters. So based on your requirement, you can use that. I will show you the use of both these methods. And then we have got system.assert not equals. This is same as assert equals as well, with 2 signatures, one with the 3 parameters and other one is a 2 parameter method. But the work is exactly opposite of system.assert. So let's say that you are saying you wanted to check either your total number of records are 10 that you have inserted in your test method, You can use system.assert equals, and if you wanted to check your total number of records either less than 10 or greater than 10, then you need to put system.assert not equals, just to test the opposite behavior from assert. So this comes us to work on a demo 4 where we have got a lot. So let's close this class. We don't know it, and we also need to close this class. So for this we have got see all data test, which is a class. So let's first discuss about how this see all data is going to work for our test class. So there are some scenario that you cannot insert metadata inside your test cases, like permission sets. You cannot insert, but you are querying those permission set into your into your FS classes. You need to use see all data equal to true so that you can access that permission set, and then you can work on rest of the logic of your class can be executed. Make sure again make sure if you are you can insert the test data inside test class, please do create. Don't use this attribute, because this attribute is going to create a mess for you while you are deploying the product. That's why I'm mentioning this again and again, so that you don't use. Just for demo, I'm showing you this. For this first method, what I'm doing is I'm making this see all data true as a true, instead of making this at a class level. Why I'm not making at a class level? Because I only want to access the data from the existing data into this method only. I don't want to access this inside all the method. If I try to make this at a class level, all my test methods are going to access the data from the database, from the Salesforce existing system records. It is not going to wait for you to create some dummy records. It is going to get, or it is going to query the records from your system. So that is what we are not. That is why we are not using at a class level. And then rest, the second method that we have, contact test, that is not enabled as a see all data. That means we are not able to see org data, and we are inserting some account here, and then we are trying to put some here. We are trying to query here. So let's talk about only these two methods first. Let me remove this assert as well. So what I'm doing is I'm querying accounts, only 15 accounts, and I'm just putting an assert here. I'm saying account should be 15. This is the expected. So let me show you the syntax for this. System.assert. So if you are in developer console, you will type system.assert. You will see all the methods that are available. You have got assert with two signatures. You can see one is accepting boolean condition, other one is you can also provide some optional message. Same thing is for assert equals and assert not equals. So that is what I just use here. First parameter is the expected result, that user is expecting that the outcome of my program will be this, and actually your program is performing some calculation and returning a value that should be there in the second parameter. And the message, if you wanted to provide some uh, useful message to the user, if there is any like if your test case is failing, that user must be able to see that why my test case is failing, what are the possibilities, so you can provide here. So that's what I set here. I just put expected accounts are not matching as a message here. And in the second method, what we did is we inserted an account, and I tried to query. I did not inserted contact. If you see, I commented out that code. I did not inserted account, tried to query, and then again I'm putting assert equal and seeing if my this method is able to query the record from the database or not, because in our previous method we are not inserting. So let's try to execute this, and we'll see what will happen. Go to test, new run, and I'll find my class here, execute only account test and contact test. So let's execute. You can see even in the debug log status section, we can see assert failed. There are no contacts available in the database. Expected 1, actual 0. Because I said that I'm expecting 1 record, but actual record that I've got inside this list from this query has zero rows. If we go to test, when you try to expand this, you will see this method is passing successfully, but this method is failing. Why this method is passing? Again, I tried to put this as a see all data equal to true. If I make it as false, this method is also going to fail. So let's make it as a false, and here I will try to insert this. So this is how you can use see all data true, but only for those metadata that you cannot create into your test method. Now let's talk about, we were talking about there was a method called test.loadData. What it does, first let's talk about what parameter it does take, and then we'll see what it does. So we have got here, first parameter is schema.asObject type. That means it is taking an object type of the API name of your object. And then second parameter is static resource name. So what static resource is, you might be wondering how to get the name of a static resource. So inside static resource, first thing is that you must need to create that static resource in the form of CSV file. And second thing is that you need to upload that static resource into your system. How to upload that? Let me quickly show you. So here, if you see, if you go to static resource from a setup quick search box, we are getting a hyperlink here called static resources. If you click here, I've got multiple static resource, but you no need to worry about that. Just click on this new, and then you have an option here. Say you've got a name. This is the name that you wanted to give, and this name is going to be, you need to pass this name here as a static resource name. And then you need to choose your file, which file you wanted to choose here. And then what is the cache control? Either you wanted to make it a private or public. So for the demo, we already have this static resource. We have got this test account static resource. That is what the name we are going to use. And then if you wanted to view the files, let me quickly download it, and I'll quickly show you as well. So inside this CSV file, this is a CSV file, a comma separated value. If you see the first row, I've got API names of my field. These are the API name of my field: name, website, phone, billing street, and then I have got some dummy values for all those. There are 3 records. I'm going to say that as first test one. This is a website. This is phone number, and then we have got street, city, postal code, and country. If you have some custom API, custom fields, let's say that you wanted to, you have a custom field called active, and the API name is active_c. You just need to use this and then provide either true, because it is a checkbox field. You can provide either true or false. But you have to make sure that you are providing API name of your field here, not label. So we have got this test accounts. Now let's quickly comment this. And again here what we are seeing, let's just talk about only this part. Test is a class inside Salesforce which is available by default. We no need to develop that. Inside that test class, we have got a method called load data. It requires 2 parameters: the API name of your object and then the name of static resource. So this is a type of string, and this is type of assObject. assObject type is also a class inside Salesforce that is available. If you wanted to have a more look on that, you can Google it, that assObject type class in Salesforce. What it will do is it will read this static resource and then will create a data for you. What is the return type for this assObject is, it is list of assObject, because as a assObject type you can either pass account, opportunity, or some kind of custom object that you have created in order to fulfill your requirement. So it is going to return assObject list for you. If I try to save this, so let's comment this line for now. If I try to save this, I'll be able to Okay, we are getting some error because this subject list is not available. So I'm going to make this. You will see that there is no error. But now if I try to use this as a list of account, I might see some kind of error. Or if I'm not getting some kind of error, you can try to execute this method only to see either three records has been inserted or not. And even if we wanted to check the name of our record, so we can say that let's get the first record and we can say 0, and we can try to we can put some debug around here. Let's try to execute this. And why we are using new run? Because we only wanted to execute this method, that is load test data. Let's quickly run here. We have got success. Let's go back to our debug log, double click on this log, and we wanted to see the debug. You can see that we have got a record here, and it is going to give you the complete all the fields or some system timestamp fields or system created fields like record ID, created date, created by every single schema that that account has. It's going to be written by this particular method, test.load test data. And why this is useful? So suppose that you have created a static test resource, and that static test resource only contains one record for now. In future, you wanted to test it for the thousands of records, or we can say that 200 of records. Instead of making changes into your class, you can directly go to your static resource, download that static resource, make the changes there, and then upload that again against the same name. What it will do, it will now will refer the updated file that you have uploaded as a static resource, and it will work there for 200 of records. Again, the second scenario for this is, let's say that uh, in a version 1 you are working, you have developed some kind of scenarios, you deployed that, customers are using and they are very happy. Later on, business came up with a requirement. They said that they want some enhancement on the same requirement. You developed on that, you worked on that enhancement, you developed that functionality, and now you wanted to make changes into your test cases. But you notice that the test cases can be slightly modified, or the data that you are using to test your functionality, if we modify some data, some of the fields, or some of the fields to give the test cases a correct understanding and the correct scenarios to test your code, it is good to go. You no need to worry about the rest of the code. You can again use that same static resource, download that, modify the records based on the conditions that you have put, and it is work for you. You no need to make any changes into your environment. Even you can make that change directly into your production environment. You cannot change any kind of code there, but you can change static resource. That is the benefit of using static resource and this method test.load data. Now we are talking about some kind of annotation that was at the rate test visible, how it is going to work. So if you see that we have got one more method that is saying that private property demo. We have got a class, apex hours class. Inside the class we have a method called update priority. Now let's first have a look in this class and what this method does do. So here we are inside our class. We have got a private method. Yep, we have got a private method here. It is just updating the priority, customer priority of account record based on the rating, whatever the rating of that account is. So let me quickly mark this method as a private. I'm not marking as a test visible. And if I go to my class, sorry, this was we are working. Now I try to make any changes, try to save it. This time I will get compile time error, which is saying if you go to the problems tab, you will say that method is not visible. Void apex r start update priority account. That means this method has been marked as private into the main class. So we just need to make sure that we are marking at the red test visible above that test method, above that private method that we have done. Now if we try to save it, and even you see that problem has been gone. If you try to save it, there is no problem and we are good to go. And again we are talking about so first let's discuss execute this method, and then we will talk about some conditional statements that we are talking earlier. So we are here in test method, we are good to go. So for now we are in the class. You wanted to check the code coverage, just click on this button, code coverage, and you are good to go. You will see which line is being covered and which is not. So as we are just working for this method, no need to bother about the rest of the lines of your class. You can see that line number 48 and 50 are not being covered. Why these are not being covered? Only this else part is being covered because if we go back to our test class, we are passing rating as high here. We have, okay, ratings should be, okay, let's quickly make sure that what values we have for rating field. So to check the fields of any objects, even because we got this question in some of our earlier session, to get the fields and API names of your standard objects, you just need to go to your setup, quick from the quick find box, just type accounts or the object name, a plural label of your object. If it is contact, type contacts. If it is opportunity, type opportunities. If it is lead, type leads. And you will get a fields hyperlink there. Just click on that and you will see here all the API names are available. I just wanted to make sure what values we have for rating fields. So I'll just quickly see. So yep, I have got hot, warm and cold. So I'm going to set as a hot here. And again, let me quickly create two more methods, or two more methods. So we are going to say that warm, cold. And why we are creating two more methods? To make sure that we are covering all possible conditions of our class. We've got some kind of error here, a method already, okay. It should be 2 and 3. And we are going to use new run, see all data, and only select these 3 methods. On the test tab, we are good. Go to your class, click on that button. You can see now we are able to cover all these class. And why we bothered about these 2 lines? Because these are the core part of our logic. These are the heart of our logic, and we must need to cover these. And that no matters how many number of methods we need to create for that, or how many records, or how many combination of records we need to create or insert inside our test method. So this is about private at the rate is test visible, and the one thing that is remaining is system.run as. So for that we have got a new class, that is apex or class unit test, which is actually a test class for this class that we are referring to. So we have got a static test setup method. Inside that we are inserting, we are getting some accounts. We have got okay, before we go ahead, let's quickly discuss one more topic, and then we will come back into this topic, that is system.run as. So there is a more concept, that is test data factory, and how it is also very useful for any developer. So we discussed about setup method that is useful whenever we need to use a common set of data inside a single test class. Test data factory is very useful when we need to use a common set of data inside multiple classes. So let's say that we have 2 classes and both classes are using account records. So instead of inserting account record inside a test setup method in both the classes, we can use a test data factory class. This is just a generic name. You can even use test utils or a util test, whatever you want or whatever suits best for you. and then you can use that. You can call test data factory method inside test method, get the data, and then insert that. That is what we are going to see in the next demo as well. How it is going to work, let's quickly see a pictorial example here. These are the classes. Let's say that my unit test 1, 2, 3, 4. Uh, ex- Excuse me, because I have put the same image for all the classes. And then this is a test data factory, which is a parent class. All these 4 test classes are using the data from test data factory, and these test setup methods are using actually referring this test data factory, and then the methods, the local method of the class are referring this test setup methods. So that is what if we talk about the next topic that we are discussing, let's quickly get back into that. Here is a test data factory for us, and you no need to worry about the code. You will get all the codes in our website, that is apex.com, apex hours. So we have got a method prepare account. We're not inserting any data here, we're just preparing. This prepare user is accepting some kind of parameters like what is the profile, what should be a profile for you in that user. Profile is queryable inside this class even without making @C all data true. What is the email, first name, last name, and what is the role. And then after that, we are creating the user here, preparing the user, and just returning that user record to every class where we wanted to prepare a user data. We can refer this class, and then we can refer this method to prepare. And then we have got a method called prepare account, which is also accepting some kind of parameters. So we have got name, phone, website, rating, industry, and number of employees. Don't insert any data inside your test data factory, just return, prepare and return. Then we have got another method, that is prepare account list, because we are talking about bulkification. That is what we are trying to insert some data, prepare some data in a bulk, return that. Again, the same 2 methods we have got for contact, we have got for opportunity, and then we have got some for product, price book entry, and then we also have load test data, a common method for all the static resource if you wanted to use. So these are some methods that are available inside my test data factory. And in our test class, that is what we are doing is we are saying that test data factory, that is a class name, the method name prepare account list. We are using list. Why we are using list? Because we wanted to perform the testing on a bulk label. So we have got test data factory dot prepare account list. If you see, now you can see these are the parameters that this method accept. We need to provide a name, that we are saying that apex hours. We need to provide a phone, that we are saying this 99911. We have got website that we are sending here, and then we have got rating, this is hot, industry, we have got banking, number of employees, we have got 200, and number of accounts. This is a key parameter here. How many number of accounts you wanted to insert? You are saying that 200, it is going to return 200 in this list. You are going to say 500, it will return 500 for you. And then what we are saying that we are using here user, we are again preparing a user. So let's again see what parameter that prepare user method accept. Takes a profile name, I just use given as a standard user, takes an email. Here is an email, first name, last name, what is the role. Even if you will give a blank role here, that also works, because we have got conditions around there in this method prepare user to work based on either we have role or not, because this is an optional thing to create a user. Now system.runAs is a method inside system class. We need to provide a user here, and then inside that we are inserting these accounts. Even I will show you why this is needed. And then we have got this method, which is let's ignore this method as of now. We have got this run as test. before we walk through this method, let's quickly have a look inside this. There is a method inside this class. So I'm going to make some changes, save it so that it removes this red sign. You can see, yep. We have got a method update accounts. It is doing nothing, just updating accounts. What it is doing is it is checking the current logged in user profile, and then we are querying a standard user profile ID and saying if this profile ID is not is equal to the profile ID that we have got from a standard user. That means if logged in user profile ID and standard user profile ID match, then only perform this kind of calculation or this logic inside that method. If not, do not perform anything. That is why the privilege come here. The user must be logged in as a standard user. And even I'm logged in as a standard user. Let me quickly show you one thing here. I'm just putting this line insert account list outside of my line number 26. That means there is nothing inside system.run edge. Now inside my method, I'm going to remove this because this doesn't make sense for me. Inside our run test method, we know that we have created data inside our setup method. We are going to get the data here. We will get 200 records. We are adding account ID in a set. Why? Because this method accepts set of account IDs. Okay, that is cool. We did. We queried this account where based on an email. We said that limit 1, and the email is, you see here, the same email that we did here in setup method. And then we have got system.runEdge, and we are calling this class. Very simple. We are enforcing system to test this functionality in context of this user, which is having a profile of a standard user. Now let's quickly run this test method and see what will happen. So I'm just going to refresh this page. And why I'm refreshing, so that we can get some refresh set of data here. Okay. Now let's quickly make sure this checkbox is checked. New run, and I will say apex ask class unit test, and run as test method is my method. You can see it is okay. Now it is running. Okay, we have got some errors. What error is? Let's quickly see. Okay, it is saying that mixed email operation. Okay, why we are getting is there is a valid reason. We will not talk more about this error because this error is an advanced concept. But the thing I will tell you why we are getting error, because we are inserting user and account into a single transaction. We cannot insert setup and non-setup objects into a single transaction. Setup objects are those objects by which we are controlling the security of our Salesforce environment, like users, permission sets, groups or roles, group members. All these are considered as setup objects. So if I try to remove this role and then I try to run my test, I think I should be good to run this test case. Let's quickly see. Because based on role, we are saying that this is going to access all the records of the roles that are reporting to him or that are not directly reporting but under that role. That is what you see that here we are getting a success sign here. Now if we go back, try to see code coverage, it is 40%. Why it is 40%? The condition is true. Even we are saying that we are querying, we are passing the IDs, but this particular part is not being covered. What could be the reason behind this? Let me tell you. We inserted account here as an admin because test class by default executes in context of admin. But we are testing our test cases in a context of a user who is having a standard user profile. But we did not create any record for that user because the user doesn't user is not owner of any records. Now if I'll try to put inside this, I will say let's run test. It is processing. Now we have got success here. Go to our class, click here, you can see the code coverage has been increased to 75%. Now you will see here we have got code coverage for this as well. We are not getting this covered because we are not getting any kind of error. This method is also being covered. Why? Because if you have noticed this from the line number 27, we are calling this method to update the priority. But these two are not being covered. Again, still we need to create some combination of records that we need to have, but we are not going to do that. And coming back to test data factory, this is an important class for you. Again, just make this class as a test class so that no need to do a code coverage for this class as well. And then you can replace all your classes or all your test classes with the help of this test data factory. But don't put everything inside test data factory. Just put the common set of data that you wanted to use inside multiple classes. Now let's get back here. We already saw the demo of this. And what to do next? We have got some trailer documents that are testing best practices. We already discussed what are, but we can go through with the document. And then we have got a trailer module that is get started with Apex unit test. And we have again got a Salesforce document that is run unit test methods. So in this document, you will get multiple methods for running the unit test as well. Please don't bother about that because those are the coding stuffs. And then these are some other resources that you might want to take a look here. Amit has got a very good blog on that. So you can also refer that as class in Salesforce. You can put this complete text inside your Google URL. You will find that URL. And then please do register for the next session. Here is a URL you can see. And then we have got assignment. So the assignment for you is you need to create a test class for the assignment that you got in day 5. And your test class must need to uh, have these following points. Like to generate the test data, you need to use test.load data method in your test data factory class. That means you need to create a test data factory class. Inside that you must need to have a method which is using test.load data and then returning the method, returning the appropriate list or set of data that you wanted to. And then you need to use setup method inside your test class so that you can refer that method, do the both positive and negative testing. When we say that positive and negative testing, please do put system.assert equals, not equals, and assert as well. All three methods should be there. And then do the testing for at least 50 records, and your class must need to be covered by 95%. If you have got 94%, that is not acceptable as per the assignment, but that is also a good code coverage. And now we are open for a question. I'm sure there must be some questions, and anyone, either Jigar or Amit, can take it up.
So, Amit, thank you for that intriguing session. Um, so, one of the questions that I think was raised by Eric, and I just answered it just a minute ago, is are the number of is the percentage of testing related to the number of records that are loaded or created within the test data factory? Answer to that is no. Uh, it's irrelevant, but yes, it is always mandated, and as mentioned by Amit in his earlier slides, it's a good practice to not only create test data for single records, but and have use cases tested with single records. It's also a best practice to test for bulk records, which means at least create 200 test records within your data. However, that does not have any impact on your percentage of code coverage. Percentage code coverage is basically the number of lines of your code, actual code, that get covered via the test code that you have written. And it has absolutely no relation to the data volume, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Then there was, I think, a couple of questions. Um, So, okay, guys, there's just this one question, and I just want to highlight scenario-based interview questions. Guys, if we keep the questions limited to the topic that we are covering, I think that would be great. Please focus on getting the knowledge. Once you have or understand a concept uh, in its entirety, I don't think any interview question or any kind of interview should be difficult. So rather than focusing on interview questions, if you focus on trying to get the concept right, the remaining part is the easier one. Okay. um, and then Amit, there's one question which says, how can I test a message box alert, which typically means how can I test any kind of UI component? So you want to take that on, Amit?
Yep, sure. So if you are talking in terms of any, say, let's say that Visual Force page, which is a UI component, you only need to write if there is a custom controller related to it. When we say that custom controller, that is also itself an Apex class. So you need to write that. There for that, first you need to tell the test class that it is a VF page for which I'm writing a test class. So how you can tell that? There is a method inside test class that is set current page, and that you need to provide that the label of your VF page. So for example, let's say that the label of your VF page is update industry, and you wanted to test that. So you need to use test dot set current page, and inside that method it takes one parameter which is page dot update industry, where update industry is a label of your page, and page is a standard component provided by Salesforce. And then the rest of the concept is same, like you just need to call the fs class method. And if you have some parameters that you are passing, you need to make sure that you are passing those parameters in the URL with the help of current page class and current parameters and map method there are.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to add is, see, one thing you guys need to understand is when you're writing unit test code, you're writing unit test code for the behavior. Um, UI UX is a different element. You may not be able to completely test it, but what you essentially test is the behavior that induces or affects the UI UX. For example, in take come circling back to the original example of saying message alert. So I'm sure there will be some condition basis which you're showing a message, and there will be some variable where that message is being stored, which then gets passed over to the UI. So basically, when you're checking for the UI UX, you're not technically checking the UI UX, but you are checking the logic or the branching logic or the condition that results in that change of state in the UI, which in this case is a alert box or a message box, whatever it is. Okay, so this is one thing that you guys need to understand when you are writing test code.
Yeah, one thing to add here is if you are talking in terms of lightning components or a new methodology lightning web component, there are a different tool available for writing the test cases for those. So for lightning it is
Right.
lightning testing services, and for web component it is just. So those are also JavaScript frameworks, and which are very good documents available by Salesforce that you can refer if you wanted to write test cases for lightning component or a web component.
Right, but those are typically UI UX testing, right? Very focused towards UI UX, and especially relevant when you're doing Lightning components, Lightning web components. Uh, when you're What Amit explained today is typically testing your business logic, and that's exactly what you do when you write Apex. So this is more relevant to Apex and any area that the Apex code influences, right? Okay, I think there is one more question, one last question, and then I think any other questions will you guys feel free to post on the website. So there is one question which says, how many max test records can we create in a batch Apex class? So
Yep, I'll
Srinivas,
take this. I'll
yeah,
take
man,
this.
good.
So for batch epics, it completely depends on how many number of maximum number of tests you wanted to do to ensure that your business logic is working for a batch epic. So even For this also Salesforce has set up a standard for testing at least for 200 records. But let's say that you are testing your batch apex for 200 records, and the batch, the component or the second attributes of your execute batch, which is saying the number of records needs to be executed from the execute method. If it is set as 100 and you are creating 200 records, you will be getting into an error saying that more than one batch cannot be executed from a test class. So if you wanted to test for 500 records, you need to make sure that you are passing the second parameter as a 500 instead of 200, which is a default. So there is no hard and fast rule to say that these are the maximum number of records that you need to test, but it is good if you can do a testing as max as possible for your business use case.
Perfect. All right. I think that we'll probably call it a day. It's been a long session, but a very fruitful one. Any questions beyond this? We will be more than happy to answer. Just please go and post it on our website. Uh,